Hello, how's everyone's days going? If you watched my previous video, which you definitely should by the way, I talked about a manga named Origin and how I felt about it in regards to the story and the way it ended, where there were certain moments that got completely added into the narrative, but it wasn't able to integrate itself, making those factors very redundant and just outright creating an ending that was really confusing. This video will be about a different manga talking about its ending, and how unfortunate of an ending it was, and looking back on the story and see how much it compares to now. Granted, it's only been around 2 years since the manga's ended, and based on the thumbnail you might already guess, this was about Tokyo Revengers. I know there's been a lot of videos discussing the manga and its ending, but regardless, I just want to talk about it personally. So hopefully you enjoyed listening to my rants, and if you are new, consider dropping a like down below and subscribing. It really helps a ton. This video is obviously going to have spoilers for the manga, so bear that in mind. For anyone who hasn't read or watched Tokyo Revengers, let me give you a quick rundown. This is a delinquent manga centered around our protagonist Takemichi, who by some chance gained the ability to travel through time. So he goes back 12 years in the past in trying to save his girlfriend from dying in the future. In the pursuit of finding the solution, he gets to meet different delinquent characters that have connection in regard to the events that will happen, resulting in the death of other major characters. So he tries his best in preventing these deaths, because one event is not enough in altering the future. He has to time travel multiple times, saving multiple people in order to get the happy ending he wanted, which made this series stand out more compared to other delinquent manga. Adding that supernatural element gave that slight uniqueness within the genre itself, making it a really strong premise by itself that made me continue on with reading the manga. With one of the manga's premise being time travel, the whole time travel sequences did the job done. Because as with many time travel stories, the longer this factor is used, the more messier and confusing the situations can be. Especially if the time travel story is specifically much more heavily geared towards its past mistakes. But with Tokyo Revengers, I think besides the last arc and the ending, the time travel power was executed well, where I never really got lost with the whole timeline, since the plot would usually only involve one specific character that Takemichi has to handle, and therefore having the pacing as it did, where Takemichi and the readers has to first fully understand the complete picture before involving the time travel factor, making each time leap being that much more significant, as he doesn't really use the power constantly. As we see it with every time Takemichi time travels, you always wonder if whether or not he has fixed the problem. We get to see different consequences of his actions, and realizing he can't truly save everyone. He can't rescue one person without losing another, whereas the events in the past have quote-unquote concluded, where Takemichi has solved one issue, he goes back to the future, well, his present, seeing the result, but unfortunately it seems a new problem has arrived that has been revealed, but only much worse. As Takemichi sees this, he fully resolves himself in completely staying in the past until all the conflict has been dealt with. And you can definitely feel the turmoil he is in within those situations, making the manga premise that much more engaging, that can really let the reader immerse themselves more with the story, making each scene feel very tense. That to me is one of the reasons why Tokyo Revengers was a promising manga that had the potential to be a really good manga with the genre. As prior to Tokyo Revengers, the only delinquent manga I've ever read was Great Teacher Onizuka, but that still wasn't the one that led me down the rabbit hole. It was Tokyo Revengers that made me want to read more of the genre. Example of that being Holy Land, which adds martial arts to the mix, being a really good manga by itself, so definitely read that if you like these types of stories. But before talking about the actual ending, I want to discuss more about the protagonists involved in the ending to get an understanding of the character's motivations, that of being obviously Takemichi, the crybaby hero. Takemichi throughout the series, while still having character development, his morals and perseverance in regards to the people around him have remained the same. Sorta like Luffy, I guess. Like, not much character progression, just the same type of personality. And that determination in his character is what allowed him to be able to reach the goal he set out to do, despite being someone who is considered relatively weak when compared to the other characters in terms of fighting capability. But because of this trait in his character as one of his flaws, people have read Tokyo Revengers or watched it would sometimes criticize the main character for being not able to fight in a delinquent manga, where fighting is a constant factor in the stories, especially when Windbreaker started to pop up. Many compared the two. Because of the protagonist of Windbreaker can fight, they would usually see Windbreaker as a more superior series, especially when it also came down to its anime. But in reality, these two are completely different stories set in the same genre. Of course, people can have their own opinion, that's fine, but to set aside the fact that the stories and plot are completely different and just comparing the protagonists is really unfair to both manga. I myself prefer the story of Tokyo Revengers for being most of the time a serious manga, but I like Windbreaker's messages and themes more for its lighthearted atmosphere. So stop comparing the two. But going back to Tokyo Revengers story, as manga readers, plenty of people in the community knows about the mixed reactions in regards to the ending of the manga. Calling it an alright ending, at least it was a happy one, it was unsatisfying, it was rushed, you get the idea. Plenty of discussions of varying opinions about the manga alongside its anime, which didn't have the best of phrases, especially when it came down to its animation. I myself would personally say that the ending was definitely rushed, but not just rushed. Basically, it added a last-minute convenient plot device that basically retconned the entire series, and all the things we have read through was just basically meaningless. Well, not meaningless, but it was very convenient. I'll try to explain the events leading up to that moment. We get to the final fight of Takemichi and Mikey, as we also learned about the dark impulses within Mikey, but I won't explain about that further since most people would probably already know anyways. With the final confrontation to that is where Takemichi sacrifices himself in order for Mikey to snap out of his dark impulses. Basically a self-sacrifice moment where he gets stabbed. When that happened, I saw the story going in a direction that seemed appropriate for the plot and the overall character progression in Takemichi's character, where as I said earlier about Takemichi doing his best in saving everyone, if he wants to save someone, he has to lose something in return, and so for him to completely save Mikey, he has to make the self-sacrifice that would allow the same theme to reoccur once again, but at the price of his life. That could have been a really good tragic ending where, while it not being the ending people would want, it would be a conclusion that could have saved the manga for Tokyo Revengers for sure. I think that conclusion would solidify my opinion that Tokyo Revengers was a great manga despite having flaws, but unfortunately that didn't happen, so it sucks. Whereas to the actual ending, turning to an incomplete, unsatisfying, rushed, happy ending. I won't bore with the details, but basically after Takemichi was stabbed, him and Mikey both time leap even further, where they were still kids with no explanation how this was really possible, but it answered with just a cringy dialogue that did not answer anything at all. One chapter later, every dead character in the series live, Takemichi got to go saving everyone, getting married, happy ending. I was so disappointed at this point because the series had so much potential for such a powerful ending. Even though the last arc wasn't the best, the least it could do was end the way that was much more appropriate. And to be honest, I would have been satisfied either way with that type of happy ending or a tragic ending, as long as it was properly done. But it was rushed to oblivion, showcasing that the author just really wanted to end the series. The manga was going on for a long time that it needed an ending, so it was just rushed with the whole everyone is happy and wholesome, they're all together, and just showcasing a montage of every single character in the future with added exposition that was there to let it be more obvious that this was a happy ending. I don't know, man. I still love the manga before its final arc. I still highly recommend for anyone reading who's interested in dealing with manga. All the characters were greatly written. It was just an upset when the ending and the last arc, I guess. Thank you guys for listening to my thoughts about this manga, and let me know in the comment section what do you think about the ending of Tokyo Revengers. As always, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe and leave a like down below. That would be greatly appreciated. Hope you all have a wonderful December. Peace out.